This is Copycat, a show where I take one journal keeper, scrapbooker, crafter, or artist, analyze their artistic style and aesthetic, and then create my own journal spread or art piece that is inspired by their personal artistic style. Let's begin. Tangerine is a successful stationery designer, YouTuber, and Instagrammer. She has a self-titled stationery line with American Crafts and is also the author to the book Craft a Life You Love. Her fun and vibrant personality emanates from her YouTube videos and Instagram photos, and her positive outlook on life is reflected on her own stationery line. Let's analyze Amy's distinct artistic style. If you take a quick scroll through Amy's Instagram, it's evident that she isn't shy with bright rainbow colors. Her brush-lettered work features multiple colors and bright hues, and she isn't afraid to color block. Amy's positive and cheery attitude translates into her stationery line with American Crafts, which also features bright pops of colors and Amy's distinct brush lettering, which is a mix of cursive handwriting and printing. Her collections also tend to feature fun and quirky elements like donuts, hearts, and feathers. If you examine Amy's journal spreads, you would notice that Amy loves to use pattern paper and journaling cards in her spreads. By using pattern paper in her spreads, she finds a way to incorporate more color and dimension to the spread. Amy also uses Polaroid photos and found ephemera pieces like ticket stubs, business cards, and pamphlets to her spread to make them more personal. I think Amy's spreads look quite distinct because of her fun brush lettering style. Amy also uses Tombow brush pens and watercolors to achieve her signature brush lettering look, and she even uses her brush lettering in her bullet journal. Amy uses her negative space in her spreads quite well, and her pages never look cluttered or cramped. I think her background in creating large 12x12 scrapbook pages has really allowed her to master the art of page real estate. Although she uses stickers, die cuts, and washi tapes, these elements never take over the spread, but simply add visual interest to the spread. With this knowledge, I think we're ready to create my very own Amy Tangerine inspired Traveler's Notebook journal spread. So we've analyzed Amy Tangerine's artistic style, now it's time for us to create something. More specifically, I'm going to be creating a journal spread in my regular size Traveler's Notebook, and we are creating a 2-page spread for Sunday, July 16th. As I've said earlier, Amy loves using pattern paper, so I'm going to be using these 2 sheets of diagonally striped blue and white paper to cover the white paper in my journal. If you're a fan of Amy's videos, you would know that she doesn't really care about measuring dimensions with a ruler, so I thought I would just use the edges of my notebook to give me a rough estimate as to where I should cut the paper. As much as I would have loved to tear this paper, since I love torn edges, I decided to cut the paper with my own scissors since I wanted to follow Amy's design aesthetic and not mine. I had some leftover red washi tape on the spread, so I decided to remove those pieces of tape first, and then I took out my trusty tape runner to adhere the pages on. Although the left sheet was cut to the right size, the right sheet of paper was cut a little too small and it exposed some of the white paper underneath. Since I didn't have any more pattern paper, I thought I would just continue on and figure out a way to conceal that little mistake. I ended up using this blue washi tape from Classicy to cover up that edge that was exposing the white paper. I added 2 layers of washi tape because this washi tape was quite sheer and I didn't want any of that white paper peeking through the washi tape. I guess I should say that I'm cheating here because this Instax photo of my friends and I wearing masks is not actually from this past Sunday, July 16th, but actually from a year and a half ago. Since Amy loves using instant film photos in her spreads, I thought I would use an old photo that I had on my fridge since I don't have my Instax camera since I left it in Canada. However, I did have a coffee sleeve that I got from a coffee shop that I visited on Sunday, July 16th, and the color scheme was bright blue and white, which matched my pattern paper as well as Amy's design aesthetic. The die cuts and ephemera pieces that Lynn, who is the planner bug on YouTube and Instagram, sent me were actually from America and reminded me of the pieces that Amy had in her stationery line. I knew I wanted to use that feather die cut for sure since she had a few feather items in her Oh Happy Day stationery collection, but I wasn't quite sure if I was going to use the star or camera die cut. I also have a piece of bright cobalt blue paper on the table because I wanted to incorporate it in some sort of way into the spread. After spending almost 20 minutes repositioning things, I finally taped everything down and used this green grid washi to further secure that coffee cozy on the spread. I had a few Tombow brush markers and I was committed to using these markers on the spread, but I had to practice on a separate piece of paper first because Amy's brush lettering style is quite different from mine and I really wanted to nail the brush lettering. Since I had coffee with friends on Sunday, I decided to script out the words coffee plus friends on the top left corner of the spread. I glued down the star ephemera piece and then I decided to use my roller date stamp since I needed a way to subtly mention the date in the spread. I ended up stamping the date on that cobalt blue paper and I ended up cutting it / tearing it because I needed to add my own touch to the spread too. Also, I've gone so far in the spread without tearing any paper, so that definitely felt good. After toying around with the placement, I finally taped that on top of the cup cozy, and then I pulled out this little sticker sheet that I got in this little Pipsticks care package that I received a few months ago, and I pulled out this little dot sticker sheet because I wanted to use different blue and green dots on this spread. Amy has used a white gel pen to add dimension to her spreads in multiple videos, and I thought I would do the same. I decided to add white accents to my brush lettering to make it seem like the light was reflecting on it. While in theory this was cool, I had a hard time trying to get the white ink to appear because the ink from my Tombow marker ended up muddling the white gel ink and made it appear more gray. Maybe if I waited for the Tombow marker to dry more, the white gel ink wouldn't have mixed with the gray marker ink. After adding those white accents, I decided to add some more washi to the page and then toyed around with the idea of adding more ephemera on the spread. I decided not to, and I instead focused on trying to incorporate some paper that I could journal on. Since the paper that I had on the spread was so patterned, I thought I would have a hard time trying to read what I wrote on it, so I pulled out this classic-y grid paper and glued it underneath the feather I previously taped onto the spread. I used tape to adhere the grid paper on the spread, and then I glued part of the feather over top the grid paper. I added some green washi tape on the right page, and then I pulled out my Winsor & Newton watercolor set, and I painted on these little plus signs all over the spread since I've seen Amy do that in a few of her spreads, and I think she even has a few pattern papers that have that little plus sign pattern on it as well. Although I'm not a big fan of hearts, I decided to paint this light blue heart near the Coffee and Friends brush lettering piece since Amy likes to incorporate hearts into her spreads as well, and then I added a few more plus signs near the classic-y grid paper we taped earlier. I thought about adding a few more die cuts and ephemera pieces, but I decided to add this little green grid washi tape over top the Instax photo that we have on the right page. As for the journaling, I decided to use my Winsor & Newton Pitt Artist pen with the medium nib since I actually haven't seen Amy use a fountain pen in her videos. The ink in this pen is water resistant and it is a type of archival ink, meaning that it doesn't fade easily. I wrote in cursive and made a lot of mistakes, so please ignore my inability to spell when you see the close-up shots in a few seconds. I wrote out smile on the Instax photo with a permanent marker and then stamped on tiny stars all over the spread with black ink as a final touch to the spread. This is pretty much the final spread, so let's take a look at some close-ups right now. So this is the completed spread. I think it looks quite great, but if I could change a few things, I would. Mainly, I would have made the spread look a little bit more full. Maybe if I had a ticket stub or another piece of found ephemera, the spread would have looked a little bit more Amy-esque. I think I did nail the color scheme though because it's quite bright and cheerful, and it's almost a complete departure from the color scheme I tend to use in my journal. Although the brush lettering is quite neat, I wish I could rewrite the word friends because Amy likes to mix uppercase and lowercase letters when she does brush lettering. Specifically, the R in friends would have looked amazing if it was written with an uppercase R. Overall, I'm really happy with this spread, but let's summarize what we learned today. To summarize, if you want a journal like Amy, follow these guidelines. Number 1, use bright colors in your spread. Number 2, use photos and found ephemera like ticket stubs, business cards, and pamphlets. Number 3, add quirky design elements like stars, hearts, and plus signs. And number 4, just have fun. Amy's positive and cheerful attitude emanates from the spreads and pieces of art she makes. So if you have fun, I'm pretty sure your spread will turn out great. Now go out there and be a copycat. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I had a blast editing this video, and thank you so much to Amy for allowing me to feature her on the first episode. Please leave a comment as to which artist you'd like me to analyze for the next episode of Copycat. Please like and share this video with your friends because it took me a while to put together, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Before I ramble on for too long, thanks for watching and bye!